Welcome to Three Witches and a Druid podcast, a Canadian podcast about paganism in today's modern society.
Welcome to the very first episode of Three Witches and a Druid, as we sit around the kitchen table talking about paganism and what's important to us.
So in this episode, we're going to talk about who we are and what's brought us around the fire, I guess, and what has made us stick to this incredibly crazy community and stuck to our incredibly crazy beliefs. There's 4 of us, and I'm sure there's 8 different definitions of what a pagan is.
Sitting right here for
Yeah.
sure.
Excellent. The dictionary version is a polytheistic earth-based religion.
Oh, is that it?
That is the dictionary definition of pagan.
So sitting around the table is myself, Brian Larder. I am the Druid of the 4 of us. And then we have...
Gwen Armshaw.
And Margot Melanson.
And I'm Thistle McMaeve.
Yeah, and I guess that they're the 3 witches.
We're the 3 witches. Poor Brian stuck here with the 3 witches.
Well, someone has to know how to run the computer. So I guess in this episode, it's mostly we're just looking to sort of introduce ourselves, to talk about who we are. Not necessarily who we are in the community, just about who we are as pagans and what brought us to paganism. I guess we'll sort of discuss what we hope this little show will be all about. I'll start because I pulled the short stick. I'm Brian Larder. I am currently the scribe of the Grove of Nova Scotia Druids. I wear way too many hats because I'm the scribe of the Grove of Nova Scotia Druids. I am the deputy chief of the Senior Druid Council of ADF. I'm the deputy chief of the Regional Druid Council, and I am the scribe of the Senior Druid Council for ADF, as well as an individual who is hoping to start up a pagan church here in Nova Scotia, along with Gwen. I have a lovely, very pagan wife, and I have a little snotty-nosed ragamuffin monster. He's about 5. We're trying to raise him pagan, but he doesn't really care at this point. He only wants to watch Dino Trucks and Octonauts on Netflix and doesn't really care about anything outside of that, which is fine. Yeah.
It's all about 5.
Yeah, it's all about being 5. Our grove is incredibly family-centric. I think every member of our grove has children except 2 members or 3 members. Yeah, I think there's 5 kids in our grove right now, all around 5, 6, 7. I've been in Nova Scotia now for 20 years, originally from PEI. There's a kind of surprisingly good little pagan community over there.
There is.
Wasn't when I was growing up, but there is now.
So, my name is Gwen. I can remember when I first realized that this was a thing. And I was pregnant with my second child. It was 1986. And I was in a secondhand bookstore, which is where I spend way too much of my downtime. And I picked up a book that was called The Complete Art of Witchcraft by Sybil Leek. I thought, I'll take that home with me. And it was falling apart, and it is still falling apart, and it is much loved. I still will go back to certain things in it, but it was broken down. Chapters were tenets of faith. And I can remember going through and going, me, this is me. And it was just beyond. I had never found anything that I resonated with so closely. Shortly after that, we moved to Northern Ontario. And if it was hard to, in the 80s in Southern Ontario, to connect with fellow pagans, because we're talking pre-internet and all of those sorts of things, it was much harder in a frontier sort of setting in the north, in the James Bay area. So until 1999, and as well, the local library had nothing that I could get out. Even when, in the 90s, when other people were on the internet, I lived so far north that when I eventually, because we were doing the back to the land thing, so we were without things. And then finally we compromised, so we got power, and then we got a phone. But even though we had a phone, it was a party line. So I couldn't even have dial-up if I wanted to. So at one point we made the trek. We moved here to the coast, and that was in 99. And I joined the UU Church, and there connected with the local pagan community, and we were really, really grateful to make that connection. So I have in my family 2 grown boys and 3 grandchildren. So we are now 3 generations of pagans. At least the grandchildren are being raised in that, and we're very much encourage them to find their own way. But that's where we're headed. And I'm very happy to be part of a few local groups and working with Brian to form a legal association that will provide pastoral care services, among many other things.
And I am Margot. I grew up, for the most part, in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I had never heard of paganism there, although a large part of my depression as a teenager and young adult stemmed from there being no magic in the world. And it wasn't until I moved to Nova Scotia 32 years ago. It was shortly after I moved here, I ran into a friend from Winnipeg at the laundromat, of all places.
The natural gathering.
Yes. She was pagan, and she's the one who introduced me to paganism. So I slowly started exploring and realizing that, yes, there was in fact magic in the world, and it was up to me to create it, to experience it. Along the way, I worked for 8 years, I think, at Little Mysteries, our local pagan bookstore. So my life was very pagan immersed. My work life, my social life, I found it very difficult if I had to go out into the real world,
With the muggles.
like Canadian Tire or something. Yes, I was very, very immersed in paganism and pagan way of life and exploring different aspects. I mean, one of the advantages of working where I did, I needed to learn about other paths in order to help the customers who came in searching, because more often than not, people who walked through that door knew they were looking for something, but did not have an idea what. I've worked with many groups for many, many years over the years. I mean, there was one group that we must have been together 15 years. And then that group has gone on and transformed and become its own other thing. And I mean, I've been working with Maeve for 20 years.
Oh, at least.
At
Minimum,
least 20
minimum.
years. Yeah. So my life sort of seemed to veer off briefly. And in the last 2 years or so, it's really been pulling me back in, and it's been nothing but beneficial. I'm happy to be exploring the magic in the world again.
We're all dating ourselves.
Yes.
You know that as we talk about things.
I'm the youngest. I'm
You're
still 40.
So the youngest. You're so the youngest. I'm Maeve. I want to say I've been doing this my whole life, but I didn't know what I was doing. Looking back now, I see that I was always a pagan child, and I found out after I came to paganism that it's in my mother's family. It just wasn't identified, so to speak. I was in my early 20s, and I was doing a paper in university, in the last of my university, and it was on prison reformation in the 18th and 19th century. And I went to the St. Mary's Library. I there found The Complete Art of Witchcraft by Sybil Leek in the St. Mary's Library in, 1987 or something crazy like that. And I thought, because I was doing thing on torture methods used in prisons, and I thought, oh, witchcraft, this might tell me how they tortured people during witch trials, because I was looking at prison systems at the time. And I started reading Complete Art of Witchcraft. As every page I turned, I went, oh my God, this is me. This is it. This is it. And I was just so shocked because, witches were devil worshippers who sacrificed babies. What did you know in 1986, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea. But it completely spoke to everything I had felt through my whole life. So that was very interesting. And then I was fortunate to meet new people. And actually, I was on my own for quite some time, and I found a few books. There's very few books to find. Sort of, thought about it on my own and was on my own, and then later found people. But so I've been active, really active for over 30 years. years now. So it's been a long time. I've belonged to many different groups. Until COVID, doing the witching hour on CKDU radio for over 20 years. It's been a long time. I can't imagine. I was just saying to Brian before everyone arrived that, how much now in my life at this age do I want to even try to, pass with the muggles, with people. And it's like, how much of myself do I want to compromise anymore? I know you all know what I mean when you got to go out and pass with them going to Canadian Tire. But I've been doing this a really long time. I have a 18-year-old daughter who has been raised pagan, but, right now that's kind of, I may think it, but she'll talk to the hand. Kind of idea. So that's all right. Yeah. When you said the complete art of witchcraft, I said, how many people have had that happen? You just sort of come across it. And I had no idea. I was just so shocked. I'm a what? I'm a witch? This can't be. And it's just been on the road since then, and no looking back and no stopping.
Exactly.
No stopping whatsoever. I cannot imagine not living for myself. I cannot imagine how bereft I would be if I didn't live a pagan magical life.
And I guess this is where the focus shifts, and I kind of agree. I was going through a hard time with my husband's health issues. I do some work as a pagan for the federal government as being specifically pagan, and I was talking to coworkers and said to them, they were asking, and I said to myself, I don't know how people cope with the world today without that connection to the magic of the divine, however you see that, and whatever vocabulary you use for that, but to see that and I just can't imagine.
If I hadn't found paganism and that idea of the magic of the divine, I wouldn't still be here. I have no doubt whatsoever that that's one of the things. I'm not going to say it's the thing, but it's certainly contributed to my survival to this point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If anyone can find, now I know the book is still out there. I have seen the 4-part series. It was The Sacred Balance by David Suzuki.
It's funny, you guys were talking about your book. The Sacred Balance is my book.
Isn't that something?
That to me is the Druid Bible.
It's the truth, because he's talking about how people are more and more disconnected, and how people are just so depressed and so stressed, and everybody's so separate and separate from the earth and everything. In any society where people live close to the earth, they're much healthier mentally and emotionally and all of that, where people are just so tense and upset. Nothing can calm you down like spending a few days out. It doesn't have to always be in the woods, but just somewhere where it's not all the dog eat dog of every day, and you're not exhausted and you're worried about your mortgage.
I often feel that is the book I think every pagan should read.
Yeah.
Because it's not about paganism.
It's about human ecology.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
it's
about
book.
Connecting with Mother Nature and understanding why things are the way they are. He takes it with he's not heavy-handed. Like the last chapter is all about going to your kids when you've done all that you can do, and all you can do is say, I've done what I can do, and that's all I can do as a person. I'm sorry the world's going to hell in a handbasket, but I've done the best I can do, and I hope that you, my child, will do the best that you can do. Hopefully we'll continue on. I think one of the best analogies in there is that the whole human race is in a car speeding towards a brick wall, and everyone's arguing about who gets.
I recognize that. I recognize that.
None of you were doing anything about this.
I know. It is all very crazy. And even people who, the city slicker who, they still want to go to Cuba and sit on a beach. They still love watching a fire when they can. The water, having a walk in a park. They still like that, and they feel so much better after they do it. But they don't pay attention to the fact they just, I've had a walk and I feel better. Are you paying attention to you had temporarily that connection, and that is what helped you. And if you were connected more, you would feel better.
But they're so focused on their made-up economies and profits. And
you mean their cottage on a lake with their boat?
Yeah.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
I think that's like one of the things I've taken from the pandemic in general is just all of this is just made up. The banks, the economy, the stock, it's just made up stuff. that somebody at one point said, let's play this board game and everybody takes it seriously. It doesn't matter at the end of the day if the stock market crashes, the economy crashes. As long as I have food in the ground and clean water over here, I can survive. None of that matters.
In Canada, we need a roof over our heads.
Yes, well, you can go out to the woods and cut down some trees and build a house.
Yeah,
you don't need
in Canada. We need that.
Yeah, you don't need the stock market in Toronto to accomplish any of that. None of that, in the end, will matter.
And it appears, and who knows how much of that is internet fake news, but it appears that the planet, the globe, actually does a little better when we do a little worse.
Yeah, reduce greenhouse emissions,
exactly.
Cleaner air.
Fish swimming in the canals in Venice. It's like, what the heck is
And we
this?
can see them because it's clear enough water that we can see that they're there.
Now, of course, this is not necessarily the definition of paganism, but understanding that balance is definitely part of being a pagan. Understanding that going for a walk is going to make you feel better. Being connected with the land you're standing on. These are important factors that a lot of people just don't take into consideration. They sit in their little cement condos.
Wow.
Why am I depressed? Because you haven't touched the ground in how long?
10 years.
Since the lockdown started end of February, beginning of March, I'm currently work in a flower shop. The plants we have sold has been unbelievable. People are locked in their apartments or their houses. They need something green. They need something in the dirt. They really need to nurture something and watch it grow because that's not happening either in their careers or in their social life. But now the plants we're selling is unbelievable.
When I do have a vegetable garden in our community garden, and I went at my regular time to, pick up some transplants and do this, and I need some manure for the whatever. Everything was practically sold out. All these people are home, people who've never gardened in their life. Even if it's just a 2x2 plot in their front yard or trying to grow a flower and a few herbs. And I was like, what the devil is going on here?
One of our Grove members
nuts.
owns a greenhouse. And at the beginning of the pandemic, he was like, how are we going to make this work? People won't really be able to come in. We're going to lose money this year. The end of the season, he was like, never mind.
Yeah.
They sold out of everything.
I
can't don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty positive they had sold out of everything about 3 weeks earlier than normal.
Yeah, it was. Everyone was crazy.
I spent time helping him set up an online store, and so we got it all up and ready. And probably a month or so in, he's like, "We have to take it down. Like sales are too high. Like we can't keep up."
Which is kind of nice.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time ourselves gardening. Like we always have a nice big garden in our backyard, but this year we were able to spend so much more time doing it, paying attention to it. Man, I think to today, there's still tomatoes on the plants. It's crazy.
My carrots are still in the ground, but they can still until it's cold. Though it was like, what do you mean I can't get that bag of whatever I'm looking for?
You come to us next year. The Druids will hook you up.
The Druids will hook you up. So I guess this kind of works into, you did mention how important the sacred balance is, to Druidry, to your view of modern Druidry. Yeah. What else do you see as essential in being a Druid?
The only real difference I find between Druidry and witchcraft or other pagan passes, it's not that there's less magic, it's just we sort of connect a lot more reasoning to the magic. It's a lot, I wouldn't say it's more scientific, it's just, it's just that way because it's always been that way. We just accept it. Personally, as a Druid, I don't feel I can create magic. I feel it's around me and I can understand it and study it, but I don't feel I'm making it. Once again, this is just my personal opinion. I feel that's a big difference between Druidry and witchcraft, where I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, witchcraft, you believe that you create it, correct? Or some do?
I think, and this will be really interesting because
there's 4 pagans around the table. There'll be 6 opinions.
Very easily. I think that we are made of magic, and for me, magic is that which Obi-Wan would call the Force. It is. So I am a pantheist. So that divine energy permeates us. It creates tensions between us, but also connects us together. it binds everything and enlivens everything.
So animism.
It's, yeah. An animist is somebody that also believes, and that is also me. So I would identify as an animistic pantheist in the sense that I am a human person, but I recognize that your dog, that Rosa, is a person as well, that she has sentience, that she has soul. But I also think maybe those carrots in the garden, they have their own sense of sentience, the trees too. And that part of my witchcraft is to connect to those other persons and connect to that divinity that flows through everything, that energy. I do believe, yes, that I can shape that and bend that and make small changes in my world by being in that flow and working with that.
Right.
That's basically what I believe that. And there's an interesting, and I think we'll talk about it next time, that we're all just made of energy. If you look into quantum physics, everything is molecules and atoms and subatomic particles and everything. So
that vibration.
This table is just energy.
Yeah.
We're energy. Everything is energy. So people are paying attention to the material, which is really only 0.0001% of everything, where 99.999% is energy. And like you, I do feel that I can tap into that energy and I can help shape it by times to do that. But people don't grasp that. Just a cat, it's just a dog, it's just it's just a chair, it's just a rock.
Some people just look at it and take it literal without realizing
they're just
more.
paying attention to the material when in fact every single thing here is just a pile of energy that has taken some form, and we're almost no different.
One other thing I could say, and people could easily argue this with me, because I know a fair bit of witches. I find druids are more deity-centric. I don't really hear a lot of witches talking about gods and goddesses, or druids talking about gods and goddesses.
I think most druids are hard polytheists.
Yeah, that is almost
that
a
is
strict
a tenet
rule
of Druidry.
Yeah. That's a hard tenet of ADF Druidry. OBOD is not quite that harsh, but the vast majority of Druids you would find to be hard polytheists.
I'm very polytheist. That even is different amongst even amongst witches. But no, I'm very eclectic.
Yeah.
And I will, depending on the need, I guess you could say, or the mood or the mode or whatever it might be, I will use deities. Certainly, and then the goddess and god are very much part of my life.
One thing that Druid picks up on often is they have a patron deity. They'll have a god or goddess that this is my god or goddess. There's literally hundreds of them, but these are mine.
Yeah.
That's really interesting and shows how much I have been out of the community at large, because that describes me and pretty much everybody I work with.
Yeah.
So I was not aware that there were pagans out there who did not have a patron deity or didn't work with
there's a shockingly large amount. Now I have to say this is a whole different episode.
Yes,
we can get into
sure.
we can get into baby witches. And
yes,
a lot of them don't have anything to do with gods or goddesses.
Wow.
Yeah, and that to me is fascinating.
Yes.
Like
is that a new thing that's been? Is that when I say new, recent within the past 10 years?
Possibly. I
think it's probably more popular now, but you think the idea a gardener with the god and the goddess, which is just some sort of overarching archetype of gods and goddesses. So, you say the god and the goddess, and sometimes they have a face of a specific god to you, and I can be corrected by the druid in the room, but I don't think you pray to the god. The god always has a name.
Correct? Oh, yes. There's a lot of them.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, and this is something I have a bit of a discussion with other druids, I personally believe that deities are human personifications of concepts and ideas and feelings and beliefs. I don't necessarily believe that there's 4 guys sitting around a table up there doing their taxes like, well, this guy's good, that guy's bad. I believe these are our own human projections of these concepts.
Sort of egregores or something we've created through group things.
Exactly.
And they have taken on their own personalities, but they have they're getting that.
Exactly. Now, also one of the great things about paganism is that the relationship between God and humble servant isn't God and humble servant. I know a lot in Wicca, it's you work alongside. In Druidry, it's a little bit more of a subservient type relationship. But in lots of pagan pastors, the gods and goddesses are there to work with, not for.
I like the term in Druidry, always. So it's that back and forth that they give, but also, you're part, you co-create with them.
Yeah. Now, like one of our most important tenets is something we call the ghost deity, the hostess relationship, and that works on all sorts of spectrums. If you were to come into my house, the first thing I do is offer you hot beverage, something comfortable. I want you to be comfortable in my home.
Did you have your supper?
Yes. But that also works with the gods and goddesses. When we invite them to a ritual, we want them to feel welcome. We want them to be comfortable at our ritual table. And this is a very important tenet for us.
Yeah. I do have a couple of gods and goddesses that I do work with frequently. Not exclusively, because oftentimes exploring new gods and goddesses I find very interesting. And I find finding someone new or someone you never occurred to, oh, well, that's what I need in my life, or this is whatever. And maybe this concept, this deity can help me, or maybe they've been waiting for me or something like that. So for me, it can take many, many different phases. So I have a few that I'm, particularly partial to because they just work in my life.
Right.
It's very, very interesting.
I think a lot of people will find that they may connect with God or a goddess, but then you'll find that as time goes on and you learn more, you may disconnect or reconnect with another. Like, you have to be open to that.
I think I'm approaching that myself, actually.
Yeah.
I think the first word that came to mind is incorrect. I'm not outgrowing my goddess, but I think she has taught me what I have needed to learn from her.
Right.
And I think it's going to be time to find a new connection and see who is the next to teach me what I need to know.
Right.
Because different gods and goddesses have, are different concepts.
Different stages of life.
Different stages of life.
Believe me, I have fought long and hard to resist this particular stage in my life.
Yeah, because I love this stage in my life now.
So, to stay on topic of the episode, what do we hope to sort of talk about?
I would like to just talk about, I suppose, what I was saying earlier about having as much of your faith in your life as you can in this world. Like, as a pagan, how do I, manage this, and this, and still keep myself connected when everything is so very disconnected? Just everyday things.
Yeah.
Some people say, oh, I could never go to work wearing a pentagram. Yeah, but you can go to work wearing a starfish. You know what I mean? Which is it's an ocean symbol. It's a 5-pointed star, so to speak. Just ways to be comfortable in this world, but keep your faith.
Right.
And
but at the same time, having a conversation
along.
of why can't you go to work wearing a pentagram? The lady next to you is wearing a cross. What's the difference?
Well, it often doesn't work out that way.
No, I realize
your
that.
employer doesn't like it, or this or that.
No,
or
I realize that, but that's stuff like a
conversation.
Well, you can. That is a conversation. You can, but you don't need any more friction in your workplace, and it's probably already there.
Some people are not comfortable with that amount.
Oh yeah, and but I don't think
Things
anyone
like
needs to be pushed out of the broom closet. We just need
no ways to
make it a walk.
Yeah, that's a walk-in closet. Somewhere comfortable to be.
Yeah.
Just how to think about it in today's society, and how to incorporate the old and the new.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Because we can't all go back, whether I might like to or not. I can't go live in the woods in a log cabin 100 years ago. You can't do that, because I do like modern medicine. I will give it that.
Mm-hmm.
And so just how to incorporate it all into, managing your life.
Right.
Oh, don't tell me I said it all.
But I think what we're looking for here is a podcast about general pagan life. And I think we have a slew of topics that we want to talk about, while possibly inviting guests, depending on the topic, of course.
Yes, of course.
And it's not about anything in specific, but just general day-to-day life.
Yeah,
Showing that there are regular folk living regular lives, but incorporating their beliefs in a positive way in that life.
Like, I'm almost positive we could probably do an entire season of just you working at Little Mystery.
Yeah. Yes, we could.
An entire season. Yes, indeed.
So stuff like that. And
I have a small example. So my daughter-in-law in the hospital, just having given birth the day before, and she's in a small town down the South Shore. We got talking about paganism, and she's like, there's nobody that follows that faith down here, Gwen. Everything that I've been and you met your friends.
This
and
is always one of my favorite topics of conversation.
Yeah, there is
nobody here believes this.
Nobody here believes this.
Here's 40 people that all believe the exact same.
And as we're talking, the personal care worker or whatever, the LPN comes in to do some work on her, and they chat because it's a small city, and my daughter-in-law knows everybody and is related to everybody else, And so the LPN leaves, and I said to her, that woman's a pagan. And she went, what do you mean? And I said, did you check out the pentacle ring and the triskelly earrings? There was something else I can't remember. And she went, oh, and she does this on the solstice. And she went, you're right. It was absolute shock. This girl she went to school with, and she's not a terrifying person that somebody would be afraid to be out to. But if you're not open to it, people are always shocked. They think they're the only people in the world.
That's what I thought in the beginning when I read this. I thought, I'm obviously the only one, and I'm alone. And I figured I was alone for several years.
You'll have to move to the New Forest in Britain to meet
people. It was crazy, which wasn't true. But here's a cute story along that same line. The very first Avalon East Pagan Gathering in 1995.
Are you talking the first?
The very first, 1995.
You, Tim, Vanessa, and three other people, and Margot.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Well, what it was is we expected 25 people, and 120 showed up. Everyone was just shocked to pieces. We were like, oh my gosh, this is happening. 9 people from Moncton showed up and said, I'm so happy to be here. I'm the only one, and I don't know a single soul. 9 people just from Moncton.
Saying the same. And that's the thing. Like, I get messages all the time
crazy.
from the valley. It's like, I'm just in here. It's like the Bible Belt in Nova Scotia.
No community.
There's no community. It's like, well, here's the 6 other people that messaged me last week saying the exact same thing.
Well, the same.
There's a bunch
I
of you down
remember
there.
at Little Mysteries one summer when the enormous American aircraft carrier was in port. Guy walks in, Little Mysteries. Oh my God. Like just gobsmacked looking around. Doesn't even know where to start, and piles of books. I can't believe I've never seen anything like this. This is great. There's nobody on board to talk to. And I mean, there's 6,000 people, as I said. He leaves. 2 more guys come in. Oh my God, I can't believe this. And this went on all afternoon. It's like you need to set up a bulletin board or something to connect with each
you're not
other.
alone.
No, absolutely not.
So that's a whole different episode, but the amount of pagans in the military is insane. You're right. A lot of them just don't know it because there is no system.
No.
Now, the military is actually incredibly progressive in that sense. They've allowed a lot of things that, like you can have pentagrams on your tombstones now, and it's marked on your dog tags. And compared to a lot of other areas of our
life,
society,
yes.
Weirdly enough, the military is the progressive one. But
yes, they have been for quite some time.
Yeah.
They actually caught on board.
yeah,
But
there's a couple of ADF senior priests who are working the military in the States, at least, and do pastoral care and stuff.
that is a funny thing. People all thinking that they're the only one when they're everywhere.
There was one year I went to the ritual in the Commons. There had to have been 400 or 500 people. It was the biggest ritual I've ever seen in my entire life. And when I tell this to other people, like, yeah, we have this event in the Commons with hundreds of people that show up every year, they're just, what? Yeah.
It would be nice to, hopefully this podcast will help people, to know that here we are in Nova Scotia, Canada, and help people maybe know they're not alone.
Yeah.
And there's places we post events, or you can come out, you can meet people.
So, like, from my very quick research this afternoon on the bus, I couldn't find any other Canadian pagan podcast. Is there one that I'm not aware of?
There's a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, a lot of them are like Southern United States.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A lot of American ones.
A lot of American ones.
I'm uncertain.
Now, do we have an email address yet if people do want to?
Not yet, but we'll
Comment
set
or-
one.
yeah.
We'll get one
Yes.
eventually, yeah.
Yes. So I guess that's it, because at the end it's always nice to say, do you have a definition of
Well,
witch?
yes.
Do you have
Yeah.
how do you see your Druidry?
Well, in the meantime, until you have one up, you can email me at mavewitch, one word, at eastlink.ca.
There we go.
Mavewitch, MAEVEWITCH, at eastlink.ca, and I will pass everything on until we get a official one.
There we go.
4 witches and a druid. How are we?
Three witches.
and a
Three
druid.
witches.
Oh, sorry, Brian. I counted you as a witch there for a minute.
I think that's a good conclusion to our first hello episode.
Very good. I look forward to the future of this, and I also look forward to times when we'll even conflicting
That's the best.
opinions. That's
Oh,
the
yes.
best.
Oh, yeah.
I see
Yep.
it this way, you see it that way. We got to promise all now not to.
To me-
Well, I'm
no
not
being
big
mean.
into astrology, but I am a Taurus, and I know I'm right, and you were wrong. And that's sort of the end.
Yes. I am
No.
also a Taurus,
Oh,
so that
then
could
here
be
we
a
go.
bit of a problem.
No, but you see, I am an Aquarius, and I know more than all the rest of you. So there we are, because I am, living in another plane of existence, and I'm not material. So there we go. What about you? Oh, Gwen's
I'm
is sad.
Sagittarius, so basically I will just hurt all your feelings blithely without any knowledge of it. Just go and sing along, blah, 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 and slap you all down into place.
So there we go. Everyone, stay tuned. Should be fun.
There we go.
This has been 3 Witches and a Druid podcast. Thanks for listening.